No edits. Real deal.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Ken Michaels Radio, where we have lots of interviews here on my channel with people in the Beatle world. These could be people who are musicians, artists, producers, authors, you name it, hosts of podcast shows. I love talking Beatles with them. And we have a very special guest who I've had the privilege of interviewing many times in my career. You know him for being the first drummer in Wings. He was on the Wildlife album, Red Rose Speedway, did the early tours with Wings in 1972 and 73. But before that, he was on an album that is constantly being praised now in Paul's canon of his solo career, that being Ram. And there's a brand new tribute album that's about to come out called Ram On in celebration of its 50th anniversary. So we welcome drummer Denny Seiwell to Ken Michaels Radio.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great day.
Let's just talk about this new tribute. I know that you and Fernando Perdomo are the producers behind this. How did it all come about? Was it all your idea? Were you approached by it? What exactly?
No, it was Fernando's idea. He comes from a generation. He's around 40.
Hmm.
He comes from a generation of younger people that Ram was a major part of their lives, and I had no idea about this, And he has a studio here in Los Angeles, and he called me up one day. He said, "Hey, would you mind coming up to my place?" And we met at a couple of Beatle fests and a couple other functions around town, and I just thought he was a really nice guy. Then I saw him in that film, Echoes in the Canyon, the
Hmm.
Andy Slater film, playing with Jacob Dylan's band, and I said, "Wow, that guy's talented." So he said, I laid down a bunch of Beatle tracks, not Beatles, Wings tracks. Would you mind coming up and just, it was too many people and some people never know. And I said, well, I love both of those songs. He says, I got a studio, I got a set of drums. You don't have to bring anything, just come on up and put drums on it. I went, why not? So I went up and, I was there 20 minutes, maybe a half hour,
Uh-huh.
and did two tracks. And what he laid down himself and a few other friends of his, the parts um, were just great, man. It sounded like the record, and then when I put my drums on it, it really sounded like the record. So all was good, and I went, well, that's really nice. And he said, maybe one day we'll just do the whole Ram album. I went, yeah, right. I kind of
Uh-huh.
fluffed it off. And then a couple of months before this thing started, we were in the lockdown, and he said, "Did you know that Ram was turning 50 this year?" I said, "Oh my God, I
Hmm.
know I didn't." He said, are you up for it? You want to do the whole Ram album?" And I said, "Why not? Let me see what Paul's got to say first." So I shot off a text to Paul, and he says, "Have at it, man. Yeah, have fun." So we got his blessing, and we started, and it was really interesting because some of the tracks we had to start with drums because all of this was done remotely.
Hmm.
People would send emails, their parts to all over the country and out of the country, around the world. Actually, Japan and Norwegians. I mean, it was pretty Norway, I should say. A vibe is from Norway, but so like Uncle Albert, for example, in backseat of my car, there's tempo changes where you couldn't actually use a guide like a click track because the tempo kind of floated around. And when we did the original record, it was just Paul and I and either Spinoza or McCracken on guitar. So
Hmm.
we were just playing along to Paul. We didn't use a click track on any of that stuff, and it kind of had ebbs and flows. And so we tried doing it first with a click track, and that just made it feel like another an alien song.
Hmm.
So we said, why don't let's put the CD on? And you've seen me do this where I play along to the Ram CD at a Beatle Fest.
Right.
And a lot of people really enjoy that. So I'm used to doing it. It's really easy for me. But I spent a little more time trying to duplicate the exact fills that I did on the original recording. So a couple like Uncle Albert, backseat especially, and long-haired lady, we did, uh, started with the drum track and built it out from there. Then put the guitars and the bass on and the vocals and stuff, and just did it all remotely. There was never more than Fernando and me in the studio.
Hmm.
And or he'd call somebody in, maybe had one or two people to sing on it, the people that lived here in LA, and the rest would just go to a local studio and send records their parts and send it in. And it just kept getting better and better. And pretty soon, I mean, one day I went up there and he said, it was right in the heart of COVID too. He said, "Oh, why don't you come up and plan to stay as long as we need to stay? I want to get all the recording done, the live recording, so we can just be sending this out
Hmm.
for completion." And I said, that's a good idea because nobody had their jabs yet, so there was the vaccine hadn't started really.
Hmm.
I went up one afternoon and I cut 8 drum tracks in 3 hours. It blew my mind. But he's such a talented engineer and everything. His drums and miking and all that, it just works great for this stuff. I would make little changes and muffle or unmuffle the drum, and retune some just minute. But the stuff came out so great and it was so easily done. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a wildlife we have a redo next. I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love playing those songs, and I don't get to play them anywhere else.
That's amazing in a way what you can do technically now with people sending in all their parts. And I have to confess that I only just now got the downloads for it. And I listened to a few of the tracks. I listened to Too Many People and Monkberry Moon Delight, and I can't believe how full of sound it is.
Oh my
It's
God.
absolutely incredible. It's as good as like the remaster of
That's
Ram.
the only thing that that's the only thing that's different though. It's a bigger sound. Paul's, when you have a masterpiece like Ram, the production that Paul put into Ram was unbelievably beautiful.
Hmm.
And if you wear headphones and listen to the production that went into it and the sparseness of parts, uh, it was a masterpiece. It really was. So when you have a first time masterpiece like that, it's pretty easy to create something like it. But I kept saying to myself, why would anybody want to do this? Why would anybody want to repaint the Madonna?
Hmm.
And so anyway, it's different, yet it's not different. It includes the whole vibe of the original Ram with some larger sounds, technology 50 years later.
Right.
And I played it I mean, I sent it to Paul. He loved it. So the fact that Paul likes it, you did a good job. So.
That's funny because on his website he has a feature called "You Gave Me the Answer," and because of his most recent album, McCartney 3, being what's now called reimagined, with a lot of artists of today remixing it, somebody asked him the question, "Would you like to see this done with any of your other albums?" And he said, "Yeah, I'd like to see it done to Ram." He must have known in advance that this was going to happen.
Well, I mean, I hope he talks a little more about it. I mean, the half speed master, I'm dying to hear that because that's got to sound amazing on the turntable.
Oh, it is. It's
You heard
incredible.
it?
Well, not the vinyl remaster. I'm talking about the CD that came out when the archival box set came out.
No,
I
the
thought that
half.
was phenomenal.
No, I mean the half speed master that he's
Yeah,
releasing that vinyl the same day as our record is released, the 14th.
right. Yeah.
So no, that when they half speed master it, the grooves get really wider on that turntable,
Mm.
and the sounds are just amazing. So when we first recorded this stuff in New York at CBS 52nd Street, it was old technology. I'm not. I think it was 16 track, and we had those suit and tie engineers, the trained almost like EMI engineers that worked at CBS there, and it wasn't your typical rock and roll shirts and t-shirts and jeans studio with a lot of pot flying around. We didn't
Mm.
get high at all.
Mm.
That whole Ram album, we had Linda in the control room with the kids, and she was making a cup of tea. That was about. was about all we had, man. And we worked hard because it was the songs were so great. Man. So let's get back to to match that vibe. We my job as producer here, I co-produced. I gotta say that Fernando did all the heavy lifting.
Hmm.
He did took all the recordings and assembled them, downloaded them, assembled them, and then we when we got all the parts right, he would send it out to 3 or 4 different singers for different songs, and they would put their parts on, and then he'd send it to me, and I would make the final decision. So I wasn't looking for a Paul sound alike,
Hmm.
but I was looking for a Paul vibe on the track, and the guy that or the girl that got that best vibe of what that Ram album was the guy that or the person that we chose for this recording, and I gotta say I didn't know a lot of these younger Gen X's and
Right.
indie rockers. I didn't know a lot of these people at all, and when I heard some of the performances, I was just Dan Rothschild just blew me away, and this other kid Gordon Michaels did Another Day, and it was I heard some. This is this is as you can't compare anything to Paul McCartney, but
Yeah.
well, I'm really happy with these vocals, and we went with them, and when it was mixed and mastered, I was like, I think we did a great job on this.
So Fernando assembled all the musicians, or did you
Yeah,
bring
he
David
knew all of
Spinoza
the.
on board? Was that through you, or?
Oh well, no, we were nearing. We didn't want to go. I could have got all my heavyweight, high profile rock and roll icon friends
Hmm.
to do this record. And I said, I don't know if that's really the way to do it. And Fernando says, I don't like that either. I mean, that's too obvious. So why don't we? I know all of these people that I've been making music with, and they're from another generation who truly loves the Ram albums as much as we do, and I think it'd be great. And who knows, we might give somebody a break through this. So
Yeah.
that's a good idea. So when we neared the finish of it, I wanted a few of my friends. And first of all, when we did uh, just Another Day, I thought Spinoza's just. I played with him just a couple of years ago in New York. He's
Hmm.
just sitting there, and he's probably not that busy. Yo, Spinoza, I call him up. Would you like to? And he said, sure, I'd love to, man. So we sent him the track, and I said, by the way, Marv Stam lives down the street from you, and he played the flugelhorn part on Uncle Albert. And I
Right.
called Marv, and he said, well, I don't have a studio. I said, well, Spinoza's right up the street. I volunteered his studio, but anyway, he found a way. He's got a good mic, and they did it with a damn iPhone,
Hmm.
and sent the parts in. You do a little magic with the technology, and it sounds like the original record. But so we got the original guitar player using the original guitar that he played on it in 1971. He
Wow.
replaced. I think he said he put on 6 guitar parts that he did on the original track.
Hmm.
So he remembered the overdubs and everything. So and we have me playing the original drummer playing the original snare drum he used on that, which is my father's snare drum, which I still own today and used on the Ram On album. So and then we have the flugelhorn player from that track. So I mean, if you close your eyes and you can make if you can make believe that Gordon Michaels is Paul McCartney, you got the same damn record.
Hmm.
So I was really knocked out with it. Though it was brilliant. And then I called my dear friend Davey Johnstone from Elton's band.
Sure.
He said, "I'd just like to have you on the record. Would you just? We'll send you a track. Just put a guitar solo on it." He said, "Yeah, okay." And he heard the track and he loved it, so he did. He just did the whole track and he put a guitar solo on "Smile Away," and it's iconic.
Hmm.
This is a guitar solo, um, a slide guitar solo that's so unique and so memorable. It really, I think he's got an iconic solo on the record. And then another friend of mine who's just become very close in the last couple of years, Joey Santiago from the Pixies. I
Yeah.
said, Joey, I want to have you on the record. Would you be into doing something? And he said, yeah, why not? And we sent him a couple of tracks, he played uh, was it Woman or Why? He played he put a part on the end of that that was just brilliant. It just took it to another dimension, you know. And it's very mixed in. It's not even like in your face noticeable. Brilliant, brilliant idea that he had. He played on another track. I think he put some. I think Fernando called them the magic mandolins. He put some really weird mandolin parts on.
Huh.
I think it was. What track was it? Jeez, don't we have to take a
Could it
look at
be
this?
Ramon?
No, 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 no. Ramon was done by Nick Bertling, who
Hmm.
was this guy from. I met him in Chicago. He's a really nice guy, but apparently he sampled everything, or he made a version of Ramon only one and two. There's two versions on the album.
Hmm.
He did that for a cover record that he was doing, and we used his ukuleles and all that. We used his version of that. It's the only track that Fernando and I didn't do.
Okay.
But some of the people, I think Fernando brought some singers in that were different from Nick's, but we used Nick's basic track, which to me, I didn't want to be a part of it anyway, because that was the one track on Ram, or the two tracks on Ram, that I didn't play drums on. Paul did. Paul was sitting around the studio, actually. He was making up a radio commercial, a jingle for the
Yeah.
Ram album, and that's how that track came about. So
That
he had
was
a
from Now Hear This Song of Mine. That.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And he had a floor tom tom, a stick, a shaker, a ukulele,
Uh
and a
huh.
foot stomp, you know, like us. So, and I have somewhere, I can't find it, but I looked for it the other day. I have a record, a 40, not a 70, you know, a full size record
Hmm.
of all these TV commercials that he made, brung to you by Ram.
Right. It's been
Yeah,
bootlegged. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's really cool. I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I have it. I just can't find it.
Hmm.
Anyway, what was getting back to that? Then uh, we wanted to have my dear friend Will Lee play
Hmm.
some bass on it, maybe even sing on a track. But he's in France, by the way. He went over there. His wife is French. They went over. They wrote out the whole damn pandemic in France. And I said, "Are you doing tracks?" He said, "Oh yeah, I'm set up here in my mother-in-law's house. I can cut a bass track very easily." I went, "Great." So we sent him the track to Woman of Wine. He put some great, fantastic bass. Made it feel so good.
Hmm.
And I got this kid. Oh, I'm gonna forget his name now. He played in the. Uh, Boy, I'm getting some senior moments are hitting me here.
That's all right.
Eric Dover from Jellyfish,
Oh yeah.
and he gave us a vocal that was, you know, that song "Woman Oh Why."
Sure.
I mean, it was one of Paul and I both loved that so much. It was so different from the rest of the record, and we had so much fun recording it. So we got this guy Eric over it, but after a while, it sounded like somebody from Guns N' Roses. You know, it was just screaming, and Fernando had this beautiful idea of having it be a woman and a man, so you have both sides. It's telling a story about the woman shoots the guy, and the guy, you know, she sings about shooting him, and the guy sings about being shot.
Yeah.
And so he asked this girl Lauren Lay something or other. She was brilliant. Anyway, it told a beautiful story. We had the male and female point of view on Woman Oh Why, which is another fantastic idea that Fernando came up with. So we were real happy with that.
I can't wait to hear the whole thing.
Oh,
Uh,
it's going to be blown away because we were blown away when I sat down and you know I listen. I got beautiful big speakers here. I got even better speakers in my old Mercedes. You know, that some guy put in for me, but they sound better than any studio I've ever been in, and I hear it on different sets of speakers wherever I go, and it just sounds so good, man. The quality, the musicianship, and you get that everybody on that record, they're on there because of their love for that album.
yeah.
And that's what makes it so special.
Can you explain? I mean, music, people's opinions about music change through the years. There are some albums from the past that people think more highly of now, and it could also work in reverse. And for some reason, Ram is now, it's gained so much in stature that so many people rank it as their favorite McCartney album of all time. And when you're talking about more than 30 albums, that's quite a compliment there. What is it about this album now where it's respected so much more now than it was in the past, in your opinion?
Well, I just believe that in the beginning, uh, Rolling Stone slammed it,
Hmm,
and I believe that most people that slammed it were just mad at Paul because they thought that he broke the Beatles up.
right.
How are we going to live without our Beatles? You know, they changed the world, they changed music, they changed everything in our existence, and all of a sudden it's gone. So I think they were just taking it out on him, but after a while they realized we can't really do this because it's a masterpiece. It really is a great body of work, and to me it really is his best work too.
Hmm.
And it took all that angst of having to sue the other three Beatles to prove that Alan Klein was going to just not do a good job of them. He was going to do a good job for himself, but not for them. And when it went to the court case and the receivership and all of that stuff, that was some troubled times for my man Paul. And he just ducked out and went up to Scotland and just said, "Screw this, man! I'm going to take care of my sheep and
Mm,
all my horses, and maybe I'll have a few drinks, and maybe I'll write a couple of songs." Well, he wrote a whole bunch of songs up there that were full of that angst. So when Linda said, "Okay, enough, get off your ass. We're going to New York. We're going to make a record. You're a musician. You're a songwriter. Let's go." And thank God Linda was there because he would have waited that whole ugly period out. When he came to New York, you know, held this weird audition. He looked at a bunch of the drummers in town and just liked my vibe.
mm.
And but the day I'll never forget the day he called me up. He said, "Well, man, I don't know, 3 or 4 days after I met him and played for him, he said, 'Hello, this is Paul.' I went, 'Paul who?' He said, 'No, you know Paul, the guy you played for the other day.' I went, 'Yeah, right.' He says, 'No, this is for real.' I thought it was somebody, one of my guys, pulled a prank on me. But that was him. And he said, 'I want to hire you to do this record with me.' And, I said, 'Oh, okay, hang on a sec. Let me just take a look at my book.' And I went, 'Let me see if I'm available.' So I just threw everything up in the air and jumped for joy. Yes, I'll be there. Tell me when and where. And the rest was history.
Yeah. Now, you've said that when you were done with the work on RAM, you hadn't heard the finished product. And I believe you also said that Paul didn't even lay down his bass parts?
Absolutely. I never saw Paul play a bass. When we went into the tracking dates, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. 9 to 6 means he shows up at 10:30.
Hmm.
We were there at 9, but he'd show up at 10:30. We'd start working, and he'd play the song for us, either on guitar or piano and a vocal mic. He would just have a pilot vocal, so we could hear the song, and either Spinoza or Hugh McCracken and me, one guitar player, drums, and Paul.
Hmm.
So he would just play the instrument that he wrote it on, piano or guitar, and pilot vocal, and we'd listen a couple of times. We'd kind of find some parts to play, and he never, except for one song, he never asked me to change what I came up with. I think that's what the beauty was. I just made believe. I said, what would Paul or Ringo play on this track when I
Hmm.
heard the song? And so I would kind of do something similar to that, and it was a hit each time, except for Uncle Albert. He wanted me to spread out the part in the beginning. We're so sorry, Uncle Albert. Rather than just jack, just play a simple part, he
Hmm.
wanted me to break it up. So I went boom, jack, boom, boom, jack, and it had this rhythmic flow to it that worked great for the song. And we never spent more than a day on a song, and most times not even a full day. We'd spend maybe a half an hour to an hour finding our parts, and then we'd record for an hour or two and take a break, go to
Hmm.
lunch. Sometimes that was it, the end of the day. So it was great fun, and the creative juices were always there because another day was the first track we recorded, and when Spinoza was on that, and we get to that section, so sad, where it goes from 4/4 into 3/4 instead of 1 2 3 4. It's 1 2 3 like a waltz, you know.
Mhm.
And Spinoza, when we first heard that, Spinoza and I looked at each other like, "Wow, this is wild, man. This is going to be something. We better make some really good parts on this because this music's going to be around for a long time." And we were right. We were right. Every day it's just getting better and better, man. So couldn't wait to get to work.
So I'm also guessing that you didn't see George Martin get involved
No,
with this or any of that, adding
no,
his arrangement to the album at all. It was
no.
just the basic
Paul,
parts.
Paul sent the tracks over to George. I'm sorry. He
That's
sent,
okay.
he sent the parts over to Paul, and George just sat down and well, not. I remember this was over in London years later, though. I remember seeing Paul with George Martin, and he was guiding George through the way he want the orchestral parts to be written.
Hmm.
And he says, "Now here, I would like the trombones to be voiced like this," and he'd play the three notes on the keyboard. "I would like them voiced like this," or the cellos here in this section, "I want them voiced like this."
Hmm.
And here's a guy that can't write a note of music telling George Martin how to do that. And it's like, where did he get this? Where did he get it? It's scary. I've never seen it before or again.
Hmm.
And, yeah, he's brilliant. I can't say enough about his talent. So,
Did you know when you finish your
bitch, what is this? The only reason, the only reason I answer my phone is we have I told you, a relative in France is not
you
doing well.
you
But
can
it's okay.
answer it.
And she must be here because she picked it up. So
Hmm.
hopefully that won't happen again.
Okay. So when you finish your work on Ram, there are so many other songs you worked on at that time that didn't make the album. Did
Yeah,
you know what the lineup was going to be on the album?
no, I had no idea. Lagging, little lamb dragonfly,
Right?
and, we
Get
did
on the
some,
right thing.
yeah, and we did some stuff for Rupert the Bear as well. And we
Yeah.
kind of, I think he told us when we were doing the tracks, he said that this might not be for the album. It might be for a film, an animation film that I'm gonna take on.
Hmm.
So we had no idea who the hell's Rupert the Bear. Americans didn't know Rupert or any of that stuff. But we just gave everything our all, like it was for the record. And
Right.
yeah, and as time would go by, and we're in Wings later on, and we're over there, Trident Studios. I remember one day he said I forget what we were working on, but he said, "You know that Little Lamb Dragonfly track?" I said, "Yeah, I love that thing." He said, "We should finish that." It's not. Well, what's not finished? Well, I need to write some stuff for a section of the song, some vocal stuff. And I went, "Well, why don't I help you with that?" And he says, "Come on, let's do it." So, I started adding some background vocals and finishing phrases and stuff. We put a thing together and put it on. That's probably one of the few tracks that I sang on, along with Denny and Linda, uh, because I got a voice like a foghorn. You don't want to hear me sing, but so anyway, that was great fun to participate that way in a masterpiece like that song. I helped them finish it, and we got it on tape, and I was really proud of it.
Yeah. Anyone who studies McCartney knows that when he makes albums, very often he records enough for two albums. And that certainly is the case with Ram. I mean, he was just on fire.
Yeah,
And when you think about all the other stuff that you guys were recording back then, I Lie Around. A lot of people wouldn't know that was 1970 you were starting on that.
yeah,
And Little Woman Love and A Love for You and those songs and Hey Diddle and you
yeah,
know, it's interesting the whole process that those songs lie dormant for a while and then he brings them back a few years later.
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you something, and this is in response to an interview that you did with a colleague of mine, Jeff Slate, a few years ago when Wildlife and Red Rose Speedway were released, the box sets, and I love the interview that was done. And he said something to you that I thought I'm very curious about your take on this, because he said that when he listens to the songs that Paul writes as a solo artist and what he writes for a band, it's like he's two different guys. And you agreed with that.
Yeah, I
And
do.
I'm wondering, what is the difference? Because you've got songs that ended up on that you did during RAM that ended up as Wings recordings. I
That
mean,
was
what do
an
you
accident, though. That wasn't planned. A lot of that stuff just happened to come along, and even though, yeah, that stuff that was done for Ram was written with a totally different viewpoint. When
mm,
he was writing for the band, he was really writing. Uh, I don't know how do you want to put this stuff, but I remember at a time we couldn't just get out there and do a whole bunch of blackbirds and stuff with Wings.
mm,
We wanted to be a rock and roll band, and we had to come up with Soily and the Mess I'm In and stuff like that. So he was writing for a whole different purpose. He was writing for a live performance and
mm.
a band playing live. So it's a different ball of wax.
Oh,
I
interesting.
hope I hope that answers your question. But
I think it does in a way. I always found it rather interesting that so much of the stuff that you did live,
son of a bitch, I can't go. I'm so sorry, man.
that's okay.
And I always turn this off, except today.
Mm. Um, the stuff that you did live, there are a lot of songs that you performed that you hadn't even released at the time, like Soily or
Yeah.
Best Friend or
Mm-hmm.
Thank You, Darlin', and
Yeah.
even My Love. Surprisingly, you did My Love about a year before it was ever released.
Yeah.
And so that must have been something to be in the audience, experiencing all these songs that you never heard before. Was there any trepidation on the part of Paul and the band? Because, usually you go out and you play what you've released, what the public might
Right.
know.
Right.
And you're doing a lot of stuff there that there's no way they would have known.
Boy. Yeah. The university tour gave truth to that. I mean, geez, we didn't have. We only had like not even a full set. We had maybe 11 songs. We had to repeat "Give Ireland Back to the
Yeah.
Irish." But yeah, it was. We didn't do too many of those songs that you mentioned there live, though. That maybe in the European tour we brought some of that stuff in, but the box set that was released a little while ago that had the Bruce McMouse
Hmm.
live footage from the European tour, and I believe there was something else in that set that had some live footage. I mean, Paul turned. There was a lot of problems. It was recorded on a 16 track, the Stones mobile truck, and there was a lot of problems with intonations, buzzes, all kinds of stuff like that, and vocal balances and stuff. When Paul took on the task, whether he did it himself or he just farmed it out to somebody to do that, I called him when I heard it the first time. I said, "This is a miracle. You've really made this stuff sound so much better than I heard some of the live tapes where fans would send you a CD from the live board feed and stuff like that, and it wasn't nearly as good. So he polished that puppy up quite a bit, and I'm really glad he did. So I'm proud of it. We'd become a rock and roll band by then.
Yeah.
Not a
So many,
rock and roll band, but
so many songs worked so well live that I wouldn't have expected to,
yeah,
like Seaside Woman, for
yeah.
example. You
Well,
know, I
Linda's
loved
first
it.
tune, yeah,
Yeah.
and we were just all nuts about reggae. So we were the first white pop group to put reggae music on a record
Mm. But
with
Love is
that with
Strange.
Love is Strange
Yeah. Huh.
and a few more. Sea Moon is great. Sea Moon's an interesting track. I mean, we're off topic here a little bit, but Sea Moon was great. We were fooling around over at the Olympic Studios one day, and we're working on that track. We're just fooling around. Every time I used to get up, Paul used to sit down at my drums. You couldn't keep him away from the drums. But
Hmm.
that particular day, Henry sat down at the drums. So Henry McCullough was playing the drums, and I picked up a bass.
Uh-huh.
I can't play bass, so Paul replaced it, of course. But we were just jamming, fooling around, killing some time, really. And all of a sudden, the track came out, and
Hmm.
Henry played about 1/10 of what I would have played on that track. It was so simple and so sparse and so perfect for what the song
Right.
that we went with it. And then Paul replaced the bass, and I put some trumpet on there, and oh, we had, you know what? I've seen a lot of Paul's bands over the years. Nobody had the fun that we did.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
initial Wings might have had its problems, but we made it was a family unit, and we had fun doing what we were doing.
Yeah, it's fun to study the whole history of Wings, and at the same time, it's frustrating too, because the fourth and fifth members didn't stay, as you know, and just if any of them had stayed on longer, it's interesting to see what might have happened.
Yeah,
I loved all the lineups of Wings, I really do. Yeah, could you just I gotta get an answer from you on this. Can you explain what 1882 was all about? That's a really
I
bizarre
don't.
track.
Yeah, I had no idea. He probably read something and had to do with slavery and being drawn and quartered, and he probably read something that just sparked an interest in it. I really should know, but I don't.
Hmm. Because in the Red Rose Speedway box set, you've got a demo of it from Paul. You've got the band
Oh,
doing it in the studio. You've got a live recording of it. So it must have been a song that you strongly considered for Red Rose Speedway, I'm thinking.
yeah, I think it was on the initial double album when it was before it was cut down.
Hmm.
I think it was. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. I have records of that. I have some acetates from that time period too.
Hmm.
Before it was a cut down. EMI cut it down to a single, a solo album, and
Right.
double album, but it had 4 discs, uh, 4 acetates. And
Right.
on one of those, I'm almost certain that I saw 1882 on the Mass and all that. In fact, like a fool. If you know any of your listeners, I I parted with one of those 4 acetates at a Beatle Fest in Los Angeles, and Mark asked me for something that I could just pass on some kind of memorabilia that they could auction off, and
Right.
I gave him one of those 4 records, and it had My Love on it.
Hmm.
And I remember 2 brothers from Riverside, California bought it. And I tried finding them, and I can't find their name. But if I would pay good money to complete my set of those 4 acetates, so if anybody knows where it is, contact me.
Didn't you tell me last time I spoke to you um, that all the members of Wings assembled Red Rose Speedway? You picked the material that made the final single album.
Yeah, yeah, we did. We talked about it. EMI said, "Well, you should really cut it down to a single album. It's not the time to release a double one." So we sat around at Abbey Road one day, and we just said, "Well, what's the best? What do we feel is the best?" And so we just kind of all agreed on the same stuff, and that was it. I
Because
mean, we were a band. I mean, when we were mixing that record and Wildlife, I mean, we were all in there, and this is before automated faders and everything. So we all had assignments on the board, moving the faders around and at such and such a part, and it was like a performance. If you missed your cues on the mix, we'd have to stay. Sometimes we were at 5 o'clock in the morning trying to get it right. And we wanted organic mixes with everybody hands on, man. This just wasn't something that it was never Paul's band. It was a band.
hmm
And that's the difference between uh, everything after everything after the initial band Wings. I think everything else suffered because they became Paul's band, not Wings.
I've often brought this up in my programs.
Steve Holly and Lawrence Juber brought a lot to the lot to the table, and they had a more of a real band feel than some of the other bands, but the first and the last in that wild.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that in terms of collaboration, you've got so much going on in Wings when you think about the fact that Denny Lane wrote a lot of the material, sang lead on a lot of the material, performed it live, the Wings Over America tour. As I've said, 5 songs Denny sang
Yeah,
lead to. It
yeah,
wasn't all Paul. Jimmy
right.
McCulloch had a couple of songs in there. Wings at the Speed of Sound, everybody sang lead. And even in the early days with you got Henry with Henry's Blues doing all that. And yeah, there was so much more collaboration within the band than people give it credit for.
He really wanted it to be. He wanted us to be known like George, John, Paul, and Ringo.
Hmm.
He really wanted us to be known just like the Beatles, and we were. If we had days off, we were at the press office doing interviews and taking pictures. He wanted our faces out there in public, and that he wanted everybody to know us, just like we were a Beatle.
Hmm. Does it bother you at all when releases come out from Paul like Wingspan and it's not all Wings music and he mixes his solo stuff with Wings and sometimes new generations might be confused what's a Wings song and what's a solo McCartney song when it's all put together on the same package?
I didn't mind that so much as long as I was on it, and I helped Paul with Wingspan. I helped him quite a bit. I gave him some footage that I had. I used to have a little cheap video camera in the dressing rooms, and so I would take candid stuff, before and after shows and stuff, and goofy crap. And after Linda passed away, he said, "So we're going to make a documentary." And I remember you always had a little video camera. Did you still have that footage? And I said, "Yeah." And I sent it to him, and they used it in the live show. He used it on Wingspan. He's used it quite a bit actually. So
Hmm,
it's nice.
very
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't mind that at all.
Okay. I just want to ask you about Band on the Run because I know that you said that the band Wings did rehearse the material for Band on the Run before Paul went to Lagos and that there were recordings made. And do you know what happened with them?
No, I I would pay good money to hear them because the band was hot. This is Henry, Denny, and Linda, and Paul, and I up at the farm in Scotland. I think he had a 2-track rolling up there, and some apparently he made cassettes from that 2-track and took them to Lagos, and they were stolen. But I never heard where that 2-track master ended up, and that was the band playing Band on the Run live.
Uh-huh.
Better than the record, believe me. Not just because I was on it, but Paul played all my drum parts almost to a T, and because that's the way it was in our heads. We
Hmm.
rehearsed it for a month or something up there in Scotland, and it was just an unfortunate situation where Paul just pushed Henry a little too hard one day, and Henry is a very organic person, and he just flared up and he said, "Enough, man." But there were problems going on with us as a band, and we're giving a lot, and it was we were getting a little, not even a little.
Hmm.
I mean, financially, it was really hard because I guess Paul didn't have the money because we weren't being taken care of, and it was really the demise, and it was the wall that separated the family unit and the band from reality. And after a while, it just wore down to a point where Henry said, "I'm done," and he split. And it didn't take much to push him into that corner. And Paul kind of knew what he was doing, but I think he suffered for it. And then after that, I begged him, pleaded with him to get somebody to break in another guitar player. Because we become a band.
Hmm.
Let's teach another guy the parts, and then go record this record. And he wouldn't have it. So then I thought about it for a while, and I heard another bad piece of information about the business situation, and I just said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And
Hmm.
It's my only regret in life. I really wish that I would have sat Paul down and talked to him about a few things before I left. And I left in a really low life kind of way, you know. I knew that I was causing some pain, but I was trying to get even for the pain that I'd suffered quite a bit to be part of that band, and I would, I really regret that because if I'd stayed, if we could find ways of ironing that out and correcting that situation, I think I'd still be with Paul because I had a magical musical relationship with that man like I've never had with any other artist I've played with.
Hmm. Can you just tell me, going back to Ben on the Run, was every song that ended up on that album, were did you rehearse all those songs, or were any of them
Oh yeah.
newer later on?
Oh, you
So,
know, Jet. No, oh yeah, all of those songs. Yeah, we rehearsed them all.
okay, including Helen Wheels, or was that a newer
No,
song?
that came after. Yeah, I don't. I'd have to look up the tracks, but if you
Yeah.
have them handy, I could say yay or nay on.
It would really be fascinating to hear those recordings that you guys made of Ben on the
Yeah,
Run, and
they're
that,
good
if
because I remember hearing them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that you had told me that Henry had them, or his family had them,
No,
and you're
no,
not sure?
no, no. I don't know. Paul's the only one that had them. He had one of those Studer two tracks up there in the barn. I'm pretty sure that's what it was anyway. But he used to keep the two track rolling at rehearsals, you know. So I don't know if he taped over. I don't know,
Hmm,
but there could be a record of those rehearsals somewhere. And if there would be any recording of those rehearsals, man, it was a special recording. I think it would have seen the light of day in 50 years. But I don't know.
it would
48,
have been so nice for it to be on the Ben on the Run box set.
wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
I can't. Well, so obviously he doesn't have it.
Hmm. Okay.
Another mystery.
Can you tell me what's going on now with you? I know that you've had your jazz trio make several albums, and what's going on there? I guess with the pandemic, it's kind of tough to get together.
Hit my jazz.
Yep, I have it here too.
You got the mouse pad?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
And the cup, the coffee cup.
yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, that's something I always wanted to do. I did two records with this. It's an organ trio,
Hmm.
John Cudini and Joe Bagg on organ. John's a guitar player. And the first record's called Reckless Abandon. Do you have that?
No, I
Oh,
have I have Boomerang.
yeah. No, Reckless Abandon too. That was done 2012, I think. And
Okay.
we did it right here in this studio. This is my drum room, but we turned it into a studio and it worked great.
Hmm.
And we recorded the first trio record in here and released it myself. And it sold pretty well, especially at Beatlefest and stuff. But I did 5 McCartney songs.
Right.
So I would talk about, I love this, at Beatlefest, I'd talk about the jazz trio. And everyone, yeah, you know, jazz, jazz. And then I saw about signing table at signing autographs, and I got the CDs for sale and everything. And nobody's buying this Reckless Abandon. So the next time I'm on stage, I said, by the way, that Reckless Abandon album, my jazz record, has 5 McCartney songs on it. Then I couldn't sell them fast enough, you know. I want one, give me two. And so I got rid of all of those. And I'm still real proud of both of the records, but Boomerang was done through it was a here I am, 75 years old, and I signed my first record deal as an artist to Bruce Quarto of Quarto Valley Records, and he believed in me, and we made a really good. It's real good record.
Hmm.
And the nice thing about jazz records is you know people find out what you do other than being a rock and roll drummer,
Hmm.
and this stuff sells little bits over time for many years. So I'm really happy. We only did one McCartney song on that record, and that was our version of "Live and Let Die,"
Which I've played
which
on
is
the air.
a killer version too.
Yep. Yeah. It's
So
all
it's fun,
good.
and you know, and now I play with another band called T Bear and Route 66. I played live with them a little bit. They have a new album coming out. I'm a little miffed because this guy T Bear hired a producer that's a drummer. So he did all the damn drumming on it. I played on one track, which kind of it was disappointing to me. So, but we're going to be as soon as the COVID is over, I'll be doing some gigs with them again. It's a 9-piece horn band.
Hmm.
Some of my buddies, really great players from all from Bruce Springsteen's band and Stevie Ray Vaughan's band. A lot of really pedigree older players that know their stuff, you know. So it was fun, and you know, and I'm also as soon as this the town opens up to music again, I want to get the trio out there. And if anybody's listening, I'm looking for a manager and an agent for my jazz trio. We should be playing the jazz festivals, and I want to bring fun back to jazz. Jazz has got a little too esoteric and a little too serious, you know. Like I like that Rule 62 thing. Come on, man, let's
Hmm.
have fun. I don't want to go to a concert and analyze it. I want to go to a concert and be moved. I want to get up and dance and feel good and smile. I don't want to feel somebody's pain or
Yeah.
or feel somebody's, oh man, I should have got rid of this stuff back in college, but I still love playing with all these chops. You know, I want to get back to music. I want jazz to be fun again, memorable, and so we're gonna delve into how we can do that and start performing live again, and possibly more than likely make another record. And I want to, once we know the direction we want to take it, it'll be a live recording done
Okay.
per, per you know purposely, and do it really well in a great venue, and maybe in video. I'm not sure, but do the recording live. Really make it something special.
Well, keep us posted on all your activities. I'd love to see you on the East Coast. You
You will.
know.
I'll tell you what. I just had a conversation with Mark Lapidus the other day, and a lot of people have been asking Fernando and I to put something together uh, where we can actually perform the Ram album with the people on the Ram On album,
Hmm.
and get it down to 5 or 6 guys that could cover all of the parts and be able to perform this live. And so Mark was really interested in hearing this, so he's talking about that October show uh, in New York or New Jersey, and that's a strong possibility. Fernando and I are talking about it, planning about it, and we're going to start working up a live show. So we might be on the East Coast.
Very good. And I
Yeah.
know that some of the people that are very involved with the fest, like Glenn Burtnick, is on the new album. John Montagna plays bass. He's
No,
there at the fest.
was Glenn on there?
Glenn is on one or two songs. I
Really?
saw him in the credits.
Glenn is one
Yeah.
of my favorite cats of all time. You know, anytime I think about doing anything Beeler or Wing related, he's the first guy I think of. Because Glenn, I mean, I hand it to him. I mean, he learned how to play the bass left-handed,
Uh-huh.
so he could be real about it. And he's a really good musician and a great singer. I've always liked
Oh,
Glenn.
yeah.
What do
He
you think?
handles
And all
McCartney's
those
vocals.
guys. I
Yeah.
mean, Drew and what's the guitar player? He's phenomenal. He's
Oh,
one.
John. I,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's one
yeah.
of the. I mean, those guys really to do what they do, and of course I can't even think of it. The Chris Camilleri, the drummer.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you know, they're great guys. They get to do this, I don't know, a couple times a year, 2, 3 times a year, and
Mhm.
they pull it together and put on some incredible performances. Man, there's some great players.
Definitely. I know that this Saturday you have an event, a streaming event with Lawrence Juber.
Oh yeah, that's for Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, right?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
want to plug that a little? Or
Uh, Geez, I don't know what it is. They call it a master class, and I don't think we're playing anything. It's all talk, so it's like
yeah.
this. But you know, I've worked with David Fishoff many times, and you know, everything from a counselor to a guest to at some of the camps, and he's putting on a nice service for people. I mean, it's like fulfilling a dream that you've always had. So I'm sure it'll be fun. Oh, by the way, Lawrence is also in that band T Bear on Route 66.
Hmm.
So I get to work with him on a regular basis. I've been seeing a lot of LJ.
Yeah, he's
And
such an amazing guitar player.
oh, he
You
is.
know.
He's probably one of the top five acoustic guitar players in the world.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say so. Yeah,
But this event, for everyone who wants to know, and I'll put it in the description box once this video goes up, is this Saturday. It's at 12 noon Eastern time, and it's a
oh, wait,
Q&A.
you mean I have to be up at 9 a.m.?
You didn't know?
No, I didn't.
Well, now
Damn
you
it.
do.
Fish off. I'll get up.
And Ken Dashow of Q104 in New York is
Yeah,
hosting this, so he'll be asking you and Lawrence questions and also taking it from the audience, you know, from people who are watching live online. And
cool.
like I said, I'll put the link up right in the description box for this video. So
That should be fun. How long is it?
it's an hour.
It's an hour. Okay,
Yeah.
that's easy, easily done. And
Yeah.
Lawrence and I always enjoy hanging out with Lawrence. So, and it's like the beginnings and the end of Wings. So
Right.
you really get a vast amount of. If the only thing that would be better is if we get Steve Holly on too. Now,
Right.
Steve Holly has become one of my dear friends in life. I didn't know him until 2003 when I was doing a Beatle Fest in Liverpool,
Right.
and, and we just met there the first time. And now Steve Holly lives across. First of all, he's got my gig. I started it. I'm the first. He's the last drummer.
Yeah.
He lives across the street from my building in New York, and his girlfriend or wife
Yeah.
is French. So it's like it's like too
He's
unreal.
copying you.
Yeah, and we hang out a lot. I mean, we're always on the phone talking. He's a great guy and a great
Oh,
musician. So
how well I know. I've
yeah,
been interviewing him since the 80s.
yeah.
So I've known him that long. And do you keep in touch with Denny Lane?
Yeah, but lately I think he kind of freaked out or something over the COVID. He's like
Oh,
staying close to home, and he was supposed to be on that show with us. I shouldn't say that probably, but I don't know what's going on with him, but I won't say where he's living, but he seems like he's really happy, but he's just waiting for this damn thing to, he's got a good relationship and he's got a place to live. Maybe he's writing a bunch of songs and waiting for the next wave to come along and record an album and get started again. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I know that he loves performing. He's always out
Right,
on the road and he's done Band on the Run in its entirety. He's
right.
done the album he made with the Moody Blues in its entirety. He likes doing those kind of things. And he's talked about doing like Back to the Egg, the whole
Yeah,
album.
yeah.
Hopefully that'll happen. But
Isn't it amazing though? Here I am thinking about redoing what Wildlife and maybe even Red Rose Speedway with the
mm,
same people that were on Ram On. We're all this music was that great that 50 years later we can still be doing it. People want to know,
yeah,
and
it's
I'm getting up there in years. I'm
but
almost as old as Paul, but not quite as old. He's
but
got me by
the music
yes.
keeps you young.
The music keeps us young, and God bless Paul for writing such music that people still love it. And
There's nothing more.
I'm so proud that he called me in on Ram. That was the beginning, and
Yeah.
it started so. I had no idea what it was going to turn out to be and lead into. So I'm thrilled.
Well, I always say there's nothing more rewarding than creating any kind of work that's lasting.
Yeah,
And Paul McCartney has given us so much of that,
yeah,
60 years of his life.
yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for that and very grateful that you've been a big part of it. And anytime you want to be on this channel, you just say the word. And I definitely want to hear whatever new music you're coming up with. And as I said, let us all know if you're going to be on the East Coast, especially with the fest. I'm going to find out soon anyway if
Absolutely,
it's on the fest.
absolutely.
So
Okay.
thanks so much for joining me. And to everybody watching, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. God bless.